So we're good to go. The live streaming is started. For the past couple of weeks, the summary is that we've had a substantial amount of work go into fixing different things in the UI of Meet. Probably one of the most noticeable is that we removed the black thumbnails. Now they contain a name. The behavior upon cover is slightly different. We see a name. The GSM bars are using a different algorithm that is soon going to be improved. Actually, that has been improved already in master, but we still need to deploy that. But if anyone else is using Meet from master, then they're already getting the new thing. And we also addressed an issue where this hack that we had that we had in order to go around the Chrome bug where if your video is muted, people don't hear you. So we had a hack there where the bridge is sending a black keyframe to everyone just to unlock the geo buffer. That had some issues. It wasn't triggering in every necessary situation. And we fixed those as well. Those are committed and deployed. And we have a revamped connection reestablishment page that's committed already, right? Yes. And I think that's a fair summary of everything, of the most important things. Oh, and obviously we've made a lot of progress on mobile. And Lubo could probably talk a little bit more about this. On mobile, we're trying to get the app published this week. So everyone should be able to use that with their installation, because we made sure that that you can join any Meet URL through the iPhone app. And then Lubo will maybe share a little bit more details about the progress of the mobile app.
Sure.
Yeah, you can do it now.
So it's a little bit of boasting on the mobile work, but it's pretty sweet to be able to click on my calendar on the URL of this meeting and have the app open and join the conference from my, as I said. Pardon?
Would you like to demo the video from your iPhone?
I don't know how to do that.
I mean, turn on video.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Do you see it now?
Yep, we do.
So the past weeks we've been working to bring some stability to the app on both iOS and Android, because we were experiencing a lot of crashes. As part of that, we also integrated the app with Fabric and especially Crashlytics, so that we could get crash reports, but also we could get like a statistic about uses of the app, on what kind of devices and such. Also, we introduced scrolling in the thumbnail area so that we can display multiple participants like now and like have them visible on a tight space. such as the phone. We, as Emil said, we're trying to submit the app to the App Store, so that's like the effort is to have a stable app that 2 weeks ago. Such as not having the screen turn off while in a call, be able the earpiece to the becoming soon, but they're still not ready, and work on the mobile.
I think. Thank you, Lugo. Boris, would you like to talk a little bit about the new GSM bars algorithm?
Yeah. For the uplink. So you and all you running, you receive RDCP receiver reports that come from the bridge. And you can calculate the packet loss. We know what resolution we are using and what our sending bit rate is. We use that instead, so that if you're using simulcast with a 720p stream, we expect that in perfect conditions you would use about 3 megabits. So we take that into account, and if you're using significantly less, we drop the quality. One thing to note is that if you have video muted, that doesn't work quite well right now, because we don't have a discrimination for audio, so we have to depend on the packet loss calculation, which is based on receiver reports coming from the actual receivers, and that may be wrong.
Is there anyone from Karlstad's on this call? Karthik or Varun? Okay, I guess not.
Yeah, and just one last thing, the code is now in the library, and it periodically fires events, giving the estimation of connection quality in percent, so it can be reused with data points.
Would you like to talk a little bit about the work that you're doing on ICE?
Sure. So we started this work on ICE, which aims to allow us to switch between one ICE pair between two ICE pairs, so that if, for example, UDP is dropped in the network for some reason, we have seen networks where ICE succeeds over UDP, but then after a certain amount of packets, UDP starts to be dropped. But TCP still works. So in this case, we want to be able to switch between the two. So in order to do that, we started to implement a new mode in ICE for J, which is gonna produce, instead of a separate socket for each pair, it's gonna have a socket per component, which is gonna effectively read from all available pairs. This way we can just read from it any data that we receive, and if we notice that we're receiving data from a new socket, we can switch and start sending there. We think that this is gonna solve the problem with UDP that I described, because we've noticed that Chrome keeps the TCP socket alive even after ICE terminates. And if it detects that UDP doesn't work anymore, it starts sending data there. So right now we have this merging socket, which is able to read from a set of sockets. And the next tasks are to make sure that Video Bridge uses the new API, and to figure out how to decide when to switch to a new target.
We're also hoping that we'd be able to use that same work to later implement better support for mobile devices on the bridge, so that when they move between networks, we were able to quickly reestablish the connection. This is all still in the planning phases, though. Thanks, George. George, would you like to talk about the state of the adaptivity work?
Yeah.
You nod. Yeah, step out.
Okay. So we are there is a big refactoring undergoing for simulcast that will add adaptivity. So VP8 has temporal scalability, VP9 has both spatial and temporal scalability. The new code will play nicely with these two features. What we already have is, given bandwidth estimation, we allocate bitrate. We decide what streams to forward from all the available endpoints. The way it currently works is, well, the thing that I'm debugging and hopefully will push soon into master is we first try to stream as many. So the new code also plays nicely with LastN, and it kind of implements refactors and implements adaptive LastN. So the way it works is we have LastN, so we forward endpoints. So given a bandwidth estimation, we try to stream as many low-quality thumbnails as possible. That's the first pass, and then we try to optimize the selected endpoint. So if we have enough bandwidth, we optimize the selected endpoints, and we stream what fits inside the bandwidth estimation. So yeah, this is currently being debugged. It's not yet committed. In order for the adaptivity work to be considered,
When are you planning to have that part committed?
there are still issues. So I'm hoping mid of the week. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is one thing. In order for the adaptivity work to be considered actually usable, there are still a few things that need to be resolved. We need to, when we suspend the streams, or when we stream low quality for everybody, we need to probe for available bandwidth. This needs to be done. We also have an issue with RTCP termination currently, because when this is an issue discovered by Boris and brought into the spotlight by Emil last week. So when the receivers send RTCP feedback like, oh, I have 80% packet loss, this 80% packet loss might include 40% packet loss from the senders. So we need to be able to subtract this 40% from packet loss from the sender in order to have an accurate picture of what goes on the receiver channel. So this needs to be mitigated in order to have adaptivity. Otherwise, you might have a very crappy sender that will drop the bandwidth estimation very much for a receiver that actually has a perfectly fine channel. So that needs to be done as well. And another smaller issue that needs to be fixed in order for the adaptivity work to be fully usable is to make sure that the client doesn't break when RTX is enabled. Because right now we do different things on the SDP when we mute and unmute. There is all kinds of transformations that we do in the SDP, and it doesn't work very well with RTX when RTX is enabled, because RTX includes FIDs or C groups in the SDP, and we don't take that into account very well. So yeah, that needs to be fixed. And those are the major things that I'll be working on after that activity refactoring is committed.
Thanks, George. Jana, Pavel, Christo, you guys have spent a lot of time working on Meet. We already talked a little bit about the reload page. Any of the things that you would like to add? Any things that you would like to add about what you're going to be working on, or any things that you've done?
So maybe interesting is going to be about the Jitsi tests. So I'm like pretty close to add Jitsi tests in Jitsi Torture. Also, we had an issue with the Jitsi where the Jitsi participant was displayed, and maybe a couple of more issues. The problem was that the Jitsi participant was not recognized by me as Jitsi participant. So with the help of Aaron and Damien, we fixed that on Friday. And yeah, I think that's the most interesting parts. Others are small UI fixes and PR reviews. So.
All right.
Maybe I can just mention that last week we kind of discovered the issue where our components, that is Gkofa and the video bridge, are not always processing XMPP packets in order, and it's quite important issue, especially if you're sending many XMPP packets related to the same conference in a burst, like 5 or more packets. They will be scheduled on the executor and will be processed in parallel. You don't know like in what order, so I'm looking right now into fixing that. We gave an attempt to use single thread processor, but then we found a few issues and had to refer the fix. So yeah, I'm looking right now for a proper fix for that.
Yeah, and also right after that, you'll be working on the logging, making sure that everything is logged to. In our case, it's called stats.io, but whatever people have configured for their statistics backend. Maybe just a few words about how we're going to do that.
I'm not sure how we're going to do that.
Yeah, well, I guess what I meant was the goal is to solve this problem where we found out that many times when we need to debug a call, we really need to see the console log, and oftentimes when you're running a service in production, that's not available. So we're basically going to make sure that every single line of console logging will be logged to your statistics backend. In our case, that's a combination of CallStats and Atlassian backends, but people out there use other combinations as well. So we will rely on the fact that your backend will have to be doing some client-side compression. Otherwise, this might become a little bit too much. In the case of CallStats, I believe they do that. We're also going to make sure that the number of lines that we actually print to the console is going to be reduced because we have a number of things that are just useless currently. And given that they will now start hitting the network, we're going to make sure that we get rid of those and only keep the more important ones. Okay. So I think this is everything from our Atlassian update. And we can now move to an open mic. Are there any questions from the other participants here?
I got a couple. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we hear you guys.
Yeah. There's 2 kids on this table as well. We're trying to keep them quiet. Actually, we're trying to get them out of the room. I've got a question that's a pretty easy one for you to answer, I think. It reflects my not being familiar with your product. I'm looking at this web interface, right? A full-fledged conference interface. I was
Yeah.
wondering, is there also a client that runs in the background or in a sidebar, something that's not the full-fledged conference, but something that could react to someone trying to get me into a conference, something like that?
So the only way I mean, you can certainly join this MOOC with any XMPP client and see the XMPP activity in the MOOC. So I'm not sure if that's your question, but there's nothing Meet specific. But again, you can do it with any XMPP client. And then when we have needed to do things like that, we basically implemented them with plugins on the XMPP server. But that was just an internal decision of ours. So
yeah,
I guess you can as well do that with a server-side bot that just joins the room as an XMPP client. There's nothing on the XMPP server side that expects some specific behavior in order to join the MOOC.
Right.
Is that what you were asking?
Everything that? Yeah. Well, my question wasn't that specific. So yeah, that could work. I could simply hook up a regular XMPP client. I was just wondering if there was anything on top of the MOOC stuff that you guys do that's very specific to Jitsi, but I guess that's not the case.
Okay. No, yeah, I mean, we use the Meet client in another context as well, in the context of Jibri, where it's used as a way to capture the screen and the audio, but that's still the full-fledged client. And we also have the Jitsi Hammer, which is, I guess that's the closest thing to what you're describing. It is basically a very simple headless XMPP client that joins the MOOC and then pretends to be a bunch of participants in order to simulate load. So that's written in Java. It's not based on the Meet JavaScript code. Yeah, I guess that's all I can think of right now.
Okay, fair enough. I was just wondering if there was something out there.
What are you thinking of?
In a corporate setting where you'd have people looking at their intranet website or having something running in the background, and if there's the need for a talk meeting where you could actually invite people to something that you create on the spot, something like that.
Oh, well, that sounds like what we do with HipChat, for example, and what RocketChat have implemented in their signaling, which is basically link-based calling. So in HipChat, for example, when you call another HipChat user, there is an XMPP stanza that goes in the background and alerts the other participant that they're receiving a call. But it's not Jingo, it's just a simple stanza that says, hey, Gus would like to talk to you, and if you accept the call, this is the URL where this is happening. So we found out that this is, I'm currently also talking to the Matrix guys to see if I want to also work with them. Personally, I'm beginning to think that this is probably the right way to be implementing call signaling from now on in a world where WebRTC exists. And solutions like SIP and Jingle that mix the actual call signaling with the media negotiation part are probably a design flow that hasn't become obvious till very recently when WebRTC appeared. But yeah, if that's what you're looking for, then my personal recommendation would be to go down that path with link-based calling. And I also think that there's some place for some amount of standardization. It doesn't have to be formal standardization, but at least best practices about what are the messages that you have to handle, what are the use cases that you have to handle, covering all these things that, for example, SIP is particularly good at handling, like having multiple points ring, canceling calls, forking calls, being able to transfer things. All of this is implementable with link-based calling as well in a much simpler fashion, obviously. And it's likely just as needed. So there's probably room for specifying recommendations on that at least cover all the use cases and tell you the best place to implement them. Was that related to what you're asking, or did I just go on a completely different course?
No, no, that's the audio quality isn't as great as I wanted it to be. So I think I caught most of what you said. But yeah, that was definitely in the area. I don't have a very specific use case in mind yet. But what you're saying right now does make a lot of sense, and I can build on top of that.
Yeah, and when you do start, please reach out to me. It would be good if we could put something on a page somewhere that specifies the full behavior that helps other people do the same thing. Because there's probably room there for a back-end agnostic engine that can implement the call signaling in a way that can then be reused with whatever back-end solution. Because if it's link-based calling, you can be using Jitsi in the back-end, you can be using your own installation, our installation, you could be using a peer-in or anything that just takes links in order to join a conference. So yeah, I think there's that could probably be helpful to a bunch of people.
Let me ask you a question really quick, because I think it follows up on what Gus was saying, and it also may just be stupid. But if I'm not mistaken, the Jingle negotiation and signaling parts of Jingle are actually separate, and there's nothing stopping you from using the there's a new call and negotiating a call.
That's true.
And then not using Jingle for the signaling channel and using
for the transport, you mean?
Or vice versa, or for the transport.
Yeah, that's actually true. And that would have been very helpful if Jingle was a complete calling specification.
Yeah, I don't know.
Except that it's the lights go out often with Jingle. So yeah, you're right. But I guess because Jingle tried to tackle too much, it is very, very far from the exhaustivity of SIP, for example, in terms of calling scenarios and call flows that are possible. And there's a bunch of things that are semi-specified, and but yeah, probably I was mostly thinking toward a state machine thing that could then be done with Jingle if you want to, or with some other protocol. I guess a Jingle extension that allows you to do links instead of some other transcript might also make sense, but I'm worried that you might be spending more effort finding legacy than. And given that there aren't that many Jingle implementations out there anyway, the win here is not obvious.
I think there is a draft for like Jingle, just URI sending, where you can just send a link effectively, and then that's your.
There is one?
I think there's a draft for that from maybe Lancer or somebody. But anyway, it might be worth looking into if people are
definitely
wanting to just use a library and not implement their own, or it may just be more complicated than it's worth. I don't know a huge amount about Jingle.
Yeah, what I'm thinking is that there's you could do something that's not even protocol specific. That doesn't have to be XMP specific, but any messaging protocol with queues would be able to handle. But there's certainly a lot of discussion to be had.
Theoretically, Jingle works that way too. It is actually supposed to be protocol agnostic, and just all the examples are XMPP. It's just horrible. It's just not stated, so it's not entirely clear.
I guess when you've only specified like 10% of what you should specify, you can claim that the rest represents freedom of implementation, and that you can do a bunch of things with it. I'm sorry that I'm being.
There are several libraries that don't do they do Jingle but not XMPP.
Really?
Yeah, look at I don't remember any of the names. Lance has one, I think, I think it's a JavaScript thing that's just that you can apply to XMPP or I don't know what's another matrix or whatever random other protocol. Anyway, I don't know enough. I'm just kind of saying things without enough information to.
It definitely makes sense to look into that before anyone goes down a different path.
It's safe to assume you don't want to do SIP there?
To assume you don't want to do SIP?
Yeah. You don't want to do link sharing over SIP?
I think that would actually be super easy to implement.
Yeah, I believe it.
If you have a SIP stack, then I guess you could do it. Which is why I think it makes sense to actually have a a transport agnostic way of doing your whole engine that way. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Gus, do reach out to me if you wanna work together on this and at least think together on it.
Yeah, I started off with the question: do you guys have a client? And we've moved 2 or 3 steps beyond that, I think. But yeah, definitely. If there's ever is gonna be something that's being developed, or if there's a need, then I'll certainly reach out.
That's why we have these calls, because we don't want to get back to work, and we'd rather have pointless discussions. Are there any other questions, or do we go back to work?
Hi guys, this is Alex.
Okay,
can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
We have a build pipeline here because we need to build RPMs for our solution. And I was trying to figure out what are the latest stable versions of the services you guys provide, the video bridge, Jitsi, and all that stuff. Then I took a look on the Jitsi website, and it seems the versions there are very old. Uh, is there any other place where I can check that?
So the Debian repositories that we have. So let me walk you through that. If you go to download Jitsi work, and then, sorry, that wouldn't be it. So that's Jitsi org/meet, for example. And then in there, there's the quick install link. And then in there you have a link, you have a section that tells you what repository to add. Yeah, but that's the only versions that we have. So Alex, did you manage to follow through?
More or less. You said to go to the easy install, the quick install guide, right?
Yeah, and then you see, so if you go to download.jitsi.org/stable, you'll see a bunch of Debian packages
/stable
that are more recent than that are still not super recent.
Yeah, because we still haven't managed to make it automated, and I'm doing it by hand. I will update the packages with the latest.
No, we have to rework that. So anyway, if you go to download.jitsi.org/stable, you would see more recent versions of this.
Okay, and those versions are stable, right? I can build my packages based on the tags here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. I was not able to find this link anywhere else, so that's great.
I think we have a problem to fix there. So we're going to try and make that clearer this week. Thanks for bringing it up.
Oh, no problem. Thank you very.
It's also worth mentioning that we have a 90, unless.
Yeah, where does it hit this? Unstable here. But yeah, Alex, if you go to unstable, and then you'll get really the latest of the latest.
Oh, cool. Nice.
So this is just packaging for everything, but there's no guarantee for stability there. The ones in the stable version are just actually they're not automated, so I can't make a good statement about that. So our goal has been to have a line where we publish things that we basically use for Meet Jitsi, at least, and that we have vetted as stable enough for there. but we'd have to work some more on that. Yeah, thank you for bringing it up. Definitely, please make sure you bring it up again next time to make sure that it doesn't slip out.
Okay, cool.
Also, if you're interested, if you're interested in maintaining an RPM build, we could probably work on making that public. So if that's something that you're interested in, to make it an official RPM build so that we can make it available for download, please reach out to me after the call, and we can see how we can work that out.
Sure. I will talk with Arnaud about that, and then if it's something he sees value for the project here, I will go forward with you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, in that case, let's call it a day, and talk to you everyone again in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.